Alright, so welcome back to another video. So today what I want to do is walk you through my color grading process I used to achieve this Bleach Bypass inspired look.
Shuts the door on the third game with a good hold in the end. Well, it's a 40-lot point and maybe not.
Alright, and I should also mention that I am not a professional colorist, so I'm just learning as I go, and just keep that in mind. Obviously, I'm always open for suggestions and pointers for things that I might not be doing quite correctly. But yeah, with that in mind, let's hop into Resolve. To start things off, let's go down to our settings here, and what I want to do is go to my color management tab here, and so I'm using color science of DaVinci YRGB. And the timeline color space is Rec 709A, and my output color space is DaVinci Y Gamut / intermediate. So I'd suggest using those color management settings if you're wanting to replicate this look. So starting things off, what I want to do is I want to structure my node tree. And so bear with me, it's going to be a little strange, a little complex, but what I want to do is I want to add 3 serial nodes as so. And then on the third serial node, I want to create that into a layer mixer. So I'm going to do Option L to create a layer mixer. And then for now, what I want to do is I want to just select that and create a compound node. We'll come back to that in a bit. And then I'm going to do 2 parallel nodes from this. All right. And then from here, what I want to do is I want to add 7 serial nodes. There we go. All right, so the first node that I want to deal with is this serial node right here. And so what this one is going to be is it's going to be our initial color space transform. So let's just label that here as CST. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag and drop the color space transform effect from our effects panel here, as so. And then what we want to do is we want to put our input color space and our input gamma as what we shot it with on camera. So for instance, I used a Sony camera, so I shot on Sony S-Gamut 3 Cine, so I'm going to select that. And then my input gamma was S-Log 3, so again we're going to select that. And then my output color space is going to be Rec 709, and then my output gamma is going to be gamma 2.4. Perfect. All right. And I should mention that I shot this with the intentions of creating a much cooler look in post. So I shot this at, I think, 2900 Kelvin. So it's looking pretty blue. So just keep that in mind with this grade. You might have to adjust the color temperature in post if you hadn't shot in a Kelvin similar to this. All right, so that's bringing our image into Rec 709 format here. So then what we want to do next is we want to go to the adjacent node, and we're actually going to do another color space transform effect on this one. All right, and for the input color space of this one, what we want to do is we want to select Rec 709, and then the input gamma is going to be gamma 2.4. And then for our output color space, what we want to do is we want to select Rec 709 for that. And for our output gamma, what we want to do is we want to select Cineon Film Log. Perfect. All right, so then I'm actually going to create another serial node, and we're going to create a compound node out of these 2. So let's select the 2 nodes, right click, and then create compound node here. All right, so first what we're going to do is we're going to actually label our compound node just so we know exactly what it is encompassing. So let's label this as our film print. And then let's just right click on the compound node and just show compound node. And we'll label this node as our Cineon Film Log. And then with this one, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be applying one of the DaVinci Resolve film print LUTs. And so we're just going to right click on that node and then just scroll down to the LUTs. And we're going to be selecting the Kodak 2383 D60 film print LUT. And the reason for that is it provides a cooler toned film print look, and that's what we're going for our overall grade here. So let's label this as Kodak 2383. Okay, and I did mention in my previous video that the reason why we want to use a color space transform with Cineon Film Log as our output gamma is because if you actually go to the LUT folder here and scroll down to 2383 D60, if you right click it and you go to reveal in Finder, right click on that and open with a text edit, you'll notice that the input gamma that they recommend is Cineon Film Log. So that's the reasoning behind that. And you'll notice that it has a pretty strong effect and really adds in quite a bit of contrast to our overall image. So what I want to do is I want to actually exit our compound node, and I'm going to actually taper that back. So I want to go to our key tab here, and I'm going to be working with our key output gain just to dial the contrast and the levels of that LUT back a little bit. So I'm going to bring this down all the way to about 0.5. And so yeah, that's a lot better. It still has the overall film print look effect, but it's not as intense as it previously was. Next, we're going to be hopping back to our layer mixer compound node here. And this is actually going to be where we're doing our bleach bypass effect. And so this is not the most technical way necessarily of applying a bleach bypass emulation effect. But let's first label this compound node as bleach bypass, and then let's go into the compound node here. And so for those who aren't aware, the bleach bypass effect is a stylistic choice that some people use when developing film, and it's specifically for color film. And basically, as the title says, it is skipping out on the bleaching portion of the development stage of film. And so by doing this, the silver that's on the film that's usually washed away during the bleaching process is actually retained in the emulsion along with the color dyes. And so what this results in is a black and white image over a color image. And so our image is usually reduced in saturation and will actually have a significant amount of grain and contrast to it. And so for this color grade, we aren't going to be doing a traditional bleach bypass emulation. I don't want to incorporate as much grain as you see in some bleach bypass effects. And I am trying to make this contrasty, but I don't want to make it overly contrasty where you lose portions of the image. So with that in mind, let's get into this compound node here. Let's label these nodes first. So as you can probably guess, this first node is going to be our black and white node. And then our second node is going to be our color node. Perfect. Okay, so for our black and white node, what I want to do is I want to actually work in our RGB mixer panel here. And then I'm going to select monochrome down here. And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift H. And so that allows me to see what our black and white selection is looking like and adjust these mixers accordingly. So I'm going to bring the red value up to 0.69. I'm going to bring the green value down to negative 0.85, I think. And then I'm going to bring the blue value up to 0.31. And so just play around with these mixers here. Obviously, it's going to be different for every image, depending on how your image is lit and what the exposure is like. So just find something that looks good for you, and you might have to come back to it as you progress in the grade and adjust it according to your stylistic preference. So then for the color one, what I want to do is, because bleach bypass looks are typically more desaturated, I want to create a very subtle desaturation effect. And so to do that, I'm going to go into the curves panel and just go to the saturation versus saturation curve. And with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this right control point completely down here, and then I'm going to set a control point in the left quadrant up here, bringing it up to our line, and then we'll also create another control point over in the right hand quadrant and bring that all the way down. And then we're just going to slide it all the way over here to about, I'm going to slide it over to right about there. And so that's just going to take away a little bit of the saturation. It's very subtle, like I said. Again, these adjustments you can do as much as you want, as little as you want. It really comes down to what look you're wanting to achieve. So the final thing that we want to do is we want to have these two nodes overlaid. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on our layer mixer right here. We're going to right click on it and we're going to go to the composite mode, and I'm just going to select overlay. So as you can see, that basically overlays the black and white and the color nodes there. And as you can see, it is extremely contrasty, far too contrasty for my liking. So again, we're going to exit the compound node and we're going to go to our key tab again. And with our output gain, we're going to bring that down to about we want to get rid of quite a bit of that contrast. So we're going to bring it down to about 0.497. All right, so next, what we're going to do is we're going to adjust our color with our primaries, as well as a little bit of fine tuning in our HDR wheel. So let's label this node as our primaries / HDR, and you can separate these adjustments into 2 different nodes if you want. It's totally up to you. Let's go into our color wheels to start things off. And what I want to do is I want to bring my lift up to 0.01 here, and I'm going to bring my gain down to 0.97. Perfect. Okay. And then again, just adjust it according to your image. This is what I find suits my image best. And so then going into adjusting the colors of the image, what I want to do is I want to start with the gamma wheel. So I'm going to go into my red value first. I'm going to bring that down to -0. Then I'm going to go to my green value and bring it down to -0.01. And my blue value, I'm going to bring that down to, I think, -0.02. And so then we're going to actually do one more adjustment over in the gain wheel. So we're just going to bring our green value up to 0.99. So just creating more of a teal effect, adding a little bit more green into our image. And so I'm just going to be doing some fine tune adjustments in the HDR wheels here. I'm just going to be focusing in my light wheel here, and so you can see that's the portion of the image that it's going to be affecting. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring my X and Y value for the light wheel down to -0. So just a slight adjustment there. So next node, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be creating a split tone effect. And we're going to be working in this middle parallel node here. So let's just label that as the split tone. And so what this does essentially is it adds some dimensionality to our image and basically brings our subject forward and makes our shadows seem as though they are further back and removed. And so to do that, what we want to do is we want to add some blue or teal to our shadows, and then we want to warm up our midtones and highlights ever so slightly. So let's work in our curves tab here, and we're just going to go to the custom curves. What we want to do is we want to work with all of the curves independently. So let's unlink the curves. And let's start with the blue one. So again, like I said, we're gonna be adding some blue to the shadows. So let's just put a control point here in the shadows and just bring it up ever so slightly. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna put another control point just over here and press Option, and then that locks it to the line here, so then you can adjust it wherever you see fit. So I'm just gonna bring it right here. So it's just focusing solely on the shadows and not the midtones and highlights. Next, what we want to do is we want to focus on our green curve. So let's again put a control point here. We want to just add slightly less green to our image than the blue. We'll just put it about there. And then let's add another control point, bring it down to the line, and put it about where the blue control point is as well. All right, so moving on to the red curve. Again, like I said, we're just going to be adding some warmth to our midtones and our highlights. Let's stick that right there, and then we're going to add a control point right here, bring it down to about where the control points are for the blue and green, and then let's just adjust this even more. So perfect. Okay, so let's look at before and after. So this is before and after, and it's very subtle, as you can see. All right, so this next parallel node, this is going to be our hue versus saturation node. So this is where we can fine tune any colors that seem to be a bit too saturated for our liking. So for me personally, I think my blues or teals are a bit too saturated for what I'm wanting to achieve. So I'm just going to put a control point over here, put another control point just over here, just to focus on my blues. And then I'm just gonna bring this down. I'll bring it down to about there for now. And like the other ones, you can come back to this and adjust it to suit your stylistic preference. So next, what I wanna do is I wanna go to this node here, and this is going to be our contrast curve node. So let's just label that as contrast curve, and then let's hop into the custom curves. So for this one, we do want all of the curves locked together. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to expand it here just so we can see a little bit more. And I want to also turn on our editable splines. So first things first, I'm going to grab this control point in the bottom left-hand quadrant, and I'm just going to bring this up quite a bit here. And then we're also going to bring down the control point in the top right-hand quadrant. And so for the control point in the bottom left-hand corner, we're going to grab it and bring the editable spline all the way down as so. So this will create a nice toe to our curve. And then what we want to do is we want to click on the control point in the top right quadrant, and we want to bring our editable spline back up as so. So that creates a nice S-curve for us. All right, so I adjusted it a bit more. I brought the editable spline up to here. I added another control point right there, adjusted it as so, and then have this control point adjusted with the editable spline as so. So that adds quite a bit of contrast, and it slightly flattens some of our highlights as well, which I want to create a very like muted, dark, moody look to our image. So I think that really helps to achieve that look. All right, so next I want to go to this node here, and I want to just kind of fine tune our shadows a bit. What I want to do is I want to go to our HDR wheels, and I want to focus solely in our shadows wheel. And as you can see, it encompasses the majority of the image here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring the exposure down to about negative 0.37. Let's see. Perfect. Yeah, so that's making it very dark. We will lighten it up in the upcoming nodes a little bit, but for now it's creating a very moody look. But bear with me as we refine this and fine tune it a little bit more. So next what we're going to do is we're going to go to this first node here, and we're going to actually use our halation effect. So let's go to our effects panel and search up halation, and let's just drag and drop that into this node here. And so I personally just want to do a subtle touch of halation. On a lot of examples of a bleach bypass effect, there's quite a significant amount of halation in the image, resulting in, you know, a lot of bloom as well in our highlights. But with this, I want to keep it a little bit more subtle, but just still provide that nice slight glow to our highlights. So what we're going to do is we're going to adjust our threshold to 0.22. We're going to bring our film saturation up to 1.91. We're going to bring the strength down quite a bit. Yeah, let's leave it at 0.192. And then the saturation we're going to bring all the way down to 0.5. And that's about it. So as you can see, before, after, so it just provides a little additional glow to some of our highlights there. And then let's just label this node. Perfect. Exit out of the effects there. And so then what I want to do is I also want to apply a slight glow effect to our image as well. So we'll go to this node and we'll just label it glow. And then again, just go to our effects panel. We'll search up our glow effect, and then let's just drag and drop that into this node. And so what I want to do is I want to bring the shine threshold all the way down to 0. I want to bring the spread all the way down to 0 as well. All right, so then we're going to select our composite type as screen right here. And what we're going to do is then we're going to go down to our global blend, and we're going to bring that down quite a bit to about 0.1. So as you can see, before, after, it just creates a subtle glow effect. And then next what I want to do is I want to just go to my final node here, and we'll add a little bit of film grain. So we'll just search up our film grain effect in the effects panel, drag and drop that there, and then we'll go to our 35mm preset here. We'll leave the texture at 0.784, and what I want to do is I want to bring the grain size up to about 0.468. And then I also want to bring the grain strength up to about 0.248. And we'll leave the rest as is here. So we can see before, after, just adds a nice subtle grain effect. It's not too overpowering as it is sometimes in these bleach bypass effects, but I'm happy with that. Just adds a little additional texture to our image. And we'll just label that here as grain. And then finally what we can do is we can go to our node here, and this is going to be used for our power windows. So first things first, what I want to do is I want to create an oval and bring it like that. We'll just make it pretty big here, and we want to make this nice and soft. It's basically replicating negative fill in post, and I'll invert it as well. So we're just dealing with the exterior portions of our image. And then what I want to do is I want to just go to our color wheels, and I'm just going to bring the gamma down ever so slightly. It's tough to notice in this one because everything is pretty dark, but it just kind of brings a little bit more focus to our subject. So then I'm just going to create a parallel node here, and I'm just going to select both of them and create a compound node out of the two. And we'll label that as our windows. And then let's just hop into our compound node there. And with the second one, what we're going to do is we're just going to add a little gradient to our image. So let's just make it nice and soft here, and let's see what it's affecting. Perfect. Yeah, so let's leave it at that. So just kind of, again, drawing the attention up towards the subject a little bit more. We'll bring down the gamma slightly, bring down the offset as well, ever so slightly. Perfect. Just very subtle, but just kind of adds to our image a little bit more, I think. All right, so let's exit out of that. And all right, so that pretty much covers our color grade for this clip. So as you can see, this is what the same grade looks like on our other clip from a little bit further on in our sequence. So I think it does a good job of creating a very moody, like Bleach Bypass look to our image. All right, so that's all for this color grading tutorial. Hopefully you learned something from this. Hopefully you're able to apply this to some of your footage. And let me know if you have any suggestions, any comments. If you want me to try out other looks in the future, feel free to drop a comment down below. But I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.